All right, welcome in to a special episode of the Don't Tell Mama Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kobold, and I'm here with two lucky guests. My guy, Queef Sam, is making his second appearance, and my guy, Zach, is back again for his second appearance to talk some NFL today, NFL free agency later, and this national championship game to start. But Sam, Queef Sam, how's it going, broski?
No complaints over here, Matt. Everything is a-okay.
And then Zach, we had you on for the award show back in I want to say late January. That award show, we dressed up nice and we had some bubbly for that night. Zach, what's been going on?
Oh, not so much. Thanks for having me again.
Heck
Just
yeah,
ready
man!
to get into it.
Ready to get into it too. And I think we need to pay some respect right off the bat to this national championship game we had this past Monday night, April 3rd. We saw the UConn Huskies and the big dog Adama Sanogo banging boards. They took down San Diego State and the Aztecs. Zach, what's your opinion on this championship run from the Huskies?
Ah, man, the Huskies just they prove that they're a good basketball program. Just they might not be the it team every year, but every couple of years they're coming out with the championship.
Yeah, you're right about that. And Sam, what do you got for me here before we get into some numbers?
Yeah, well, you had brought it up to me that it really hasn't been that long since their last championship. I believe that was back in 2014.
2014 was their last ring.
Yeah, so not too many years in between championships. Again, kind of to piggyback off what Zach said, I just think it shows that they're a strong program. And when you talk about these dominant basketball programs in college basketball, their name has to be thrown in there.
Yeah, yeah. People were kind of talking, are they a blue blood? And I think you have to be a blue blood with five championships. And boys, these five championships are since 1999. They won in 99, oh 04, 11, 14, and now 23. That's five championships in 24 tournaments.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive, especially they're not counting championships in the 70s, the 60s. Like
No,
these are
since
fresh.
99. Since 99, 24 tournaments. We didn't have the 2020 tournament, remember? 24 tournaments. They've had five championships with three different head coaches. I think that's amazing. We had Jim Calhoun, we had Kevin Ollie, and now we got our boy Danny Hurley.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, Sam.
It's impressive. Yeah. When it's three different coaches, I think it speaks to the school and the overall program.
Yeah. And those five titles since 99. So UConn has five titles since 99, and the Pac-12 conference hasn't had one since 1997, which was Arizona. So that's crazy. Just to go through this tournament run, this was a historic run, if we don't know. Starting off in the first round, they beat Rick Pitino in Iona 87-63. They slapped St. Mary's out of the way in the next round 70-55. Then they beat the crap out of Arkansas 88-65. Then we saw a historic beatdown in the Elite Eight over Gonzaga 82-54. And then they took care of Miami in the Final Four, 72-59. Sam was over at the house for that one. That was a good
Yep,
night. That was a that
that
was a
was.
slop that was a sloppy one. And then of course on Monday night we saw him take down the Aztecs 76-59. This 120-point margin is the fourth most ever in the tournament. No five seed has ever won the championship. I don't know if people knew that one. No five
Oh,
seed has
probably
ever
not.
won the championship. And then here's a big one, historic run for the Huskies. No team has won all six games by 13 plus points. Ever. Ever. So I think Jordan Hawkins, the sharpshooter, athletic. I think he's gone to the NBA draft, but they got a good chance to return everybody else. Could we, Sam? Could we possibly see a repeat champion, the first since Florida?
I think it's unlikely simply because of history. Now, what about the big fella? Is he coming back as well?
Adama Sanogo right now is not projected to go anywhere in the NBA drafts by ESPN or whoever. So I
I
can
think if
very well see him coming back.
I think if you have him coming back, they got to be in the talks to do it again. I think it's so hard to do. And I believe you were telling me about some statistic about teams with success. I don't know how far in the tournament, but it's very unlikely that they'll do it again the following year. But all these numbers that you're throwing out are incredible. And maybe the Huskies are the ones to do it.
That stat you're referencing is the champion, the defending champion hasn't gone to the Sweet 16 since 2016 Duke.
That's
So,
it.
and we saw it again this year with Kansas getting knocked off by Arkansas in the second round. Zach, if Adama Sanogo comes back, Andre Jackson comes back, Tristan Newton, who had a big game in the championship game, all those guys come back, can they go back to back here?
Why not? Could happen.
It very well could happen.
It's going to be hard, but they can.
I think that's going to be a huge storyline going into next year. It could very well be preseason #1.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sam,
They threw down a bunch of big hitters coming their way
oh man, yeah,
in the turn. Yeah, Gonzaga, Arkansas, Miami.
Miami, heck yeah, heck yeah. I will say they didn't have to play a 1 or a 2 seed. That is part of the story here. They didn't have to play a 1 or a 2. That's not their fault. That's not their fault. They
No,
handled
not their
business,
fault at all.
but that is something. But no team has won all 6 games in the tournament by 13 plus points in the history of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
Historic,
so I don't know. They could be up there for one of the best tournament runs, championship runs in history.
I think you're right. I think people are going to talk about this team for years to come. Zach, what's your closing thoughts on the Huskies?
On the Huskies, could we talk about Kemba?
Oh, Kemba was at the game. Did everybody see him getting rowdy?
His eyes were barely open.
Boy, those eyes were open and they were red. They were pretty bloodshot, Kemba. It looked like he was having a good time, as he should. Sam, did you see him in the crowd?
I think I saw the cameras pan over to him once or twice.
Yeah, the cameras knew where to go. Kemba was having a good time, as he should. He's a champion there. I don't know if his number is in the rafters, but it should be. Zach, what do you think about Kemba getting loose?
Dude, why not? It's Kemba.
It's Kemba. Everybody loves
Is
Kemba.
he playing it? Is he playing right now?
Man, you got me on that one.
I don't
You got
know.
me on that one. That guy fell off really quick with, I believe, knee problems, right?
Yeah, but he was good. He was really good for a while.
He's got to be still floating around. We're gonna have to look up Kemba if he's on a roster right now. Sam, what's your closing thoughts on the Huskies?
Closing thoughts on the Huskies. They may not have beaten a 1 or a 2 seed, but they beat teams that did. Um, Man, it was the first time in the whole tournament that I saw Miami not look dominant and tough. I mean, throughout the whole tournament, I feel like Miami was just gaining so much steam. They were really handling teams. But man, UConn just kind of pushed them around. It never really seemed like there was a chance. And as far as famous fans, how about my boy Bill Murray hanging out with the team dog? He's a big UConn Huskies fan.
Yeah, son is an assistant coach, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. That Miami slapping was a 72-59 score on Saturday night. Okay, boys. So congrats to the Huskies. Congrats to Ben Powell for taking home first place in our
Yeah,
ESPN tournament challenge. He had the Huskies winning it all
only
and
one.
only one. Props to him. 500 bones coming his way tonight. Ben, be ready for that.
Is there a countdown?
Just whenever I think about it.
I wish I had $500 coming my way.
Oh man, it's gotta feel good to be Ben Powell right now. All right, boys. Let's get into a little bit of NFL free agency here. You know, it's never a good time for the NFL to be doing this during March Madness because all my focus is on March Madness. The Don't Tell Mama Sports podcast, that focus is all on March Madness. But we wanted to look back at a couple guys here that signed some contracts, and starting off in the quarterback position, I think we got to talk about Lamar Jackson here. We he announced that he requested a trade, that he wants out. There's a lot of rumors going around. Obviously, it's the NFL. Sam, what do you got for me on the franchise tag with Lamar Jackson?
So I believe it's non-exclusive. So other teams are allowed to talk with him and make an offer. So they would be taking on what would undoubtedly be a ton of guaranteed money. At least that's what Lamar wants, as well as giving up 2 first-round draft picks. So you're talking about giving up a lot of draft capital, and then taking a hit as far as cap space is concerned. So, you're not doing something like this lightly. But when you're talking about a former MVP who's only 26 years old, I mean, he could come in and immediately make you a contender. So if you're a team that's not set at the quarterback position, I think you're being negligent if you don't at least talk about it or consider your options with Lamar.
You're definitely right about that. Only 26 years old, former MVP, went to the Super Bowl. Zach, what you got on Lamar?
I don't know. Is he going to play? Is that his plan if they don't trade him? Is he not going to put pads on? Is he not going to be out there week 1?
He's franchise tagged for $32.4 million, so I think he's planning to run it back for 1 year with Baltimore.
Yeah, so like if he doesn't play, does he not get that money?
Good
Zach, you are
question.
correct. Yeah, no, you're right. So if he chooses, like we've seen other players do, sit out to kind of protest, he will not be making that money. So
They
Man,
don't know
uh
what's going on over there with as far as his relationship with the Ravens. You would imagine it's not great if he's requesting a trade, but
I
if
really wonder what the deal is.
this could be a Le'Veon Bell situation. If I'm not mistaken, Melvin Gordon sat out the first half of a year with the Chargers, didn't he?
I think so.
So this could be a sticky situation, and for fantasy football purposes, I might be a little nervous. Might be a little nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving
Could
on
be.
to moving on to another.
Well, well, I will say then, if we're going to move on, one quarterback you could look at late in the draft if you don't want to gamble on Lamar Jackson, fucking Jimmy G.
Jimmy G, hell of a segue there, Zach. Jimmy G moves on from the 49ers to the Raiders. There was some Aaron Rodgers speculation here for Las Vegas, but Jimmy G goes. What do you think about that, Zach?
Yeah, dude. I mean, Jimmy G, he's a talented dude. He has shown that before. And now he's got one of the best wide receivers to throw to. Devontae Adams, we thought I mean, I was one of the people that thought that his numbers would drop down from going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr, but it didn't.
Zach, you were big time queefing on Devontae Adams last year. You
Yeah,
were big time queefing on him.
yeah, and I was wrong. So, I mean, if Derek Carr did that, Jimmy Garoppolo could do the same thing. And so, with that being said, he also has his former coach, former offensive coordinator, as his head coach now,
Ooh, good little wrinkle
and
there, Zach.
that he had success over there with the Patriots. That's how he, got his starting position at with the 49ers.
Good little
I
wrinkle
think I
there.
think and I don't know if I'm not saying necessarily it's going to be like huge success or anything, but he could be a solid quarterback if you don't want to take up one of your early picks to draft one.
Yeah, Jimmy G's always been solid. The deal with the Raiders is for 3 years and 67.5 million. Sam, what do you think about Jimmy G reuniting with Josh McDaniels?
Jimmy G going over to the Patriots of the West, as I like to call them. Josh McDaniels, bringing in a lot of that sort of Patriot way and bringing in and guys. I believe Kobe Myers is now a Raider, which is
Got that
super
right.
interesting because everyone recalls his play where he threw it to the Raiders. So that was his last experience in that stadium.
Oh
And
man.
now people were accusing him of helping them out. Now he's doing it on purpose as he gets picked up by the Patriots of the West. Yeah, I think I don't know. Part of me thinks, is Jimmy G really that much of an upgrade from Derek Carr, especially when you consider the injury history? But I think, like Zach said, you have the familiarity with Josh McDaniels, and I think 3 years makes sense. But when you're talking about the NFL draft and these top four, maybe five quarterbacks, the Raiders get brought up a lot. I think Jimmy G is going to be like a buffer as they look to find maybe their next long-term answer. Because again, with the injury history, I mean, he's not super old, but you got to think he's there because he can provide them with success right now with the rest of their roster. But I think if you're the Raiders, you're thinking about who your next guy is going to be.
I definitely
Yeah,
agree with that.
Jimmy G, 31 years old right now. Uh, Two other guys we want to hit on went back, re-signed here. Geno Smith re-signed with the Seahawks. Danny Dimes, Dookie Jones re-signed with the Giants. Dookie Jones, Danny Dimes got 160 million, most money for a quarterback this offseason. QB9 last year. Sam, you like what Danny Dimes does with his legs?
Vanilla Vic.
Vanilla Vic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think he's a guy. You talk about Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he's quite up there, but it's hard. I think when you have success and you have a direction that you can see with a guy, you got to commit to him. And he sure seemed to blossom under Dable. And I think it's maybe a little too much money in my opinion, but then again, like what other options do you have? You're either gambling on an older veteran, you're giving up your entire franchise for Lamar, or you're picking a rookie, who's 22, 23 years old. You don't know how they're going to pan out. So
Right. Yeah. Older veteran that we saw that Jimmy G took over for, Derek Carr, leaving the Raiders, and he goes to the Saints. Zach, 4 years, 150 million for a 32-year-old quarterback. Are you nervous about that deal for Derek Carr and the Saints?
I don't know. The Saints are not going to be good regardless. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be good this year. Um, I don't know. I think the organization's just been just slowly going downhill. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Good for Derek Carr getting some money, but I think both him and the Saints both know that they're coming to an end soon.
I think you might be right about that since Drew Brees and Sean Payton left.
Yeah,
Haven't been the same there. Haven't been the same the
no,
last couple of years.
no, there was some some hope in Michael Thomas, but he only had that 1 year.
Man.
Didn't do anything after. And Alvin Kamara, he's not playing this year.
He
He's an asshole.
Alvin Kamara was top 5 for NFL NFL douche of the year for the Don't Tell Mama Sports podcast last year. So him and a few guys beat the shit out of somebody, a 4-on-1 beat down in Vegas. So yeah, he's probably facing a suspension next year. Sam, what do you think about that?
yeah, I couldn't vote for him because it didn't really come across as douchey so much as like truly criminal and like just horrible.
Yeah. It's above
He deserved
douchey.
another. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with Zach. I think for me, the Saints are a team, especially after the departure of Sean Payton. I don't really see them with an edge, a winning edge. I think he brought that. Hopefully, he can bring that to the Broncos. But for me, the Saints are that classic team that's always good enough to not get a high draft pick, but always bad enough to not make any real noise. They're not a playoff team. Um, it's a very winnable division that they're in, especially with the departure of Tom Brady from the Bucks. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Panthers are making a lot of moves. New head coach. They gave everything away to get the number one pick. They're going to get their guy at quarterback. I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that'll wrap up some QB talk for us. Let's move into some running backs here. We got three big dogs that were tagged by their teams, all top 8 running backs last year in full PPR scoring. So Saquon Barkley got tagged by the Giants. Josh Jacobs going back to the Raiders. A lot of Raiders talk today. And then Tony Pollard going back to the Cowboys. Those guys were RB. Barkley was RB5, Jacobs RB3, Pollard RB8 last year. Sam, what do you got on those 3 guys for me?
Well, let me ask you guys a question, and I'll answer first. Of those 3, which do you think was the most important? For me, it's Tony Pollard and the Cowboys, especially with the departure of Zeke and the emergence that Tony Pollard had. I think without that insurance policy of Zeke, you had to bring Pollard back. And I know he had an injury, but I believe before that, not really injury prone. And he was a stud. He was relevant just for NFL, but also very fantasy relevant too. So I think that was huge for them to show him the money and bring him back.
So out of those 3 guys, you would be taking Pollard.
I think that was the biggest, yeah.
I think we got Saquon at 26 years old, Jacobs is 25, Pollard's 25. I know Barkley has been hurt, but man, we've seen some special things out of Saquon Barkley. I think I'd have to go Barkley for if I had to pick out of those 3 guys. Zach, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I'd agree with you. I think he was a lot of what success the Giants had this year. They won. They finally won. Had a winning season. Went to the playoffs. I mean,
I
they won the wild card game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I know he hasn't been great every single year leading up to this, but he was a lot. If he could do that same thing next year, they'll still be as good.
I like Saquon, man. He's a fun player to watch. He's a good guy to root for. I think this. Are we thinking Giants get this division next year, boys? Take down the Eagles.
It's possible. It is possible.
I think so.
That's a hard. That's a hard division right now.
They were always the laughing stock, but they've certainly turned that around. I could easily see 3 teams competing for that. I think I got to give the nod to the Eagles. They lost both their coordinators to head coaching positions. They lost some of their defensive players in free agency, but I don't know. With that fiery head coach they got, offensive minded, you got Jalen coming back with all those weapons. I feel like you got to give the nod to the NFC champs, the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah. Zach, if you had to make a prediction right now for the NFC East, who you taking?
Oh man, I don't know. Not the Cowboys.
Not the Cowboys. What about the Washington football Queefs?
Salamanders.
Nah, but they're hopefully. I don't know if it's just all noise, but hopefully they're selling so they can finally, do something else with that
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah.
But I don't know. I I would like to say the Giants because I like the Giants better than the Eagles, but and then again, that whole thing about losing all their coordinators, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I'm gonna say the Giants slip in there and surprise people next year. Get a top
Hey,
3 seed. Top 3 seed in the NFC.
well,
Just a couple more running backs here. We saw Miles Sanders talking about the Eagles there. We saw Miles Sanders leaving the Eagles, going to Carolina. One of the big deals, 4 years, 25 million. We saw David Montgomery, Zach, leaving your Bears,
Hmm.
moving in the division to the Lions for 3 years and 18 mil. What do you think about that pickup for the Lions, Zach?
Uh, I mean, it's a good pickup, but I don't understand. I don't know why they didn't re-sign Jamal Williams.
Franchise leader in tutties. Franchise leader in
Yeah,
tutties.
and like he seemed like he was a big part of that team.
He was part of that team.
So I don't know what the what the events were that for his departure. I didn't want to give him the money he was asking for, or just because I don't think at this point David Montgomery's better than him.
Yeah, David Montgomery
I'd say they're
played.
probably pretty equal, but I wouldn't say he's better.
David Montgomery played in 16 games last year, was RB 24 and full PPR scoring. What do you think about this for DeAndre Swift, Sam?
I think if you're a DeAndre Swift fantasy owner, it probably excites you. I would be more concerned about the return of Jamal Williams vulturing carries and touchdowns. I'm not as worried.
I'll stop you right there. Jamal Williams with the Saints.
Right, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like
Oh,
if I was a DeAndre Swift owner, I would be less concerned with David Montgomery being the other back versus Jamal Williams. Like I
ah,
think the like you said, leader in touchdowns. So like I'm getting excited if I'm a DeAndre Swift owner, especially
really?
if I'm considering keeping him. Yeah, I don't
Wow.
know. I yeah, I agree with Zach. I don't know why the Lions didn't bring Jamal Williams back, especially if you were watching Hard Knocks. I mean, he seemed to be not only a fan favorite, but a player favorite, big leader on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't make sense to me.
Would you be more or less excited about DeAndre Swift, Zach? I'm asking for a friend.
I would be more. I mean, yeah, exactly what Sam said. I mean, I'm less concerned about David Montgomery stealing touches from DeAndre Swift than
Wow.
Jamal Williams did last year. But
Okay.
DeAndre Swift needs to stay healthy still too. He was out,
Yep.
I think, 4 or more games.
Oh man, he's been missing games every year.
Yeah,
So David Montgomery only 25 years old. I think we're shitting on David Montgomery a little bit.
We might
yeah,
be.
but I mean, but the average, uh, career span is 3 to 4 years, really.
NFL not for long.
Yeah, especially at the running back position. That's a tough position. You get beat
Oh
up a
yeah.
lot.
DeAndre Swift 24 years old if we were wondering. Moving
Everyone
on.
was.
Everybody was. Only a 1 year difference there between Montgomery and Swift. I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have thought Montgomery had a couple years on him.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
Maybe two, but yeah, I'm not too surprised.
Moving on to the receivers here, we saw my guy Juju. I had big hopes for him in KC last year, and he wasn't out there. But he signed for 3 years and $33 million with New England. Sam, anything about Juju?
I mean, I guess as you would say, Matt, let's have a little respect. Let's have a little respect.
He got a
Got
ring.
himself a ring. He
He
got a
got a
ring.
ring.
We always talk about, the difference between fantasy relevance and, regular NFL relevance. I think, I don't know if I would say integral part of the Chiefs' success, but yeah, I mean, if you're the Patriots, you're losing Jacoby Myers to the Raiders, you got to bring somebody else in. Do I think Juju's an upgrade from Jacoby Myers? I'll say yes. I'll say yes. I think he's a little bit younger, right?
They're both 26. Juju
Oh,
came in
okay.
young. Juju came in
He
young.
did.
They both got 3 years, $33 million. Jacoby went to the Raiders. Zach, you taking Juju or Jacoby next year?
Uh,
Both 26, both got
that's
the
a
same
tough one.
contract. Juju was, I think we'd be surprised on a PPR.
Honestly, I might go Jacoby. Uh, I don't think Juju's gonna have fun in New England. I don't think he's gonna like playing for Bill Belichick.
I heard a lot of Mac Jones rumors there that could be shipped out.
Oh yeah,
Could be.
Really?
So I don't know about the Patriots.
He's gonna
yeah,
be
maybe
throwing
this.
Juju the ball, Bailey Zappi.
Zappy. We saw DJ Chark. go to Carolina on a $5 million 1-year deal. We saw Mecole Hardman get a ring and go to the Jets. We saw Darius Slayton re-sign with the Giants for 2 years and $12 million. Zach, we saw Alan Lazard get the most money here, 4 years, $44 million, to leave the Packers and go to the Jets. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good switch for him. Who wants to live in Green Bay? I mean, Green Bay or New York City. I mean, which one are you rather live in? But we'll see what else the Jets do. 'Cause, I mean, this was all supposedly for Aaron Rodgers, like demands to get him on their team.
One of our buddies.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much success he actually has over there. Like, especially if Aaron Rodgers doesn't end up going there.
Wide receiver 34 on a PPR scoring basis last year, Sam. Does that go up going to the Jets? Is he a top 30 receiver next year on the Jets?
I think we're all assuming that Aaron is going to go to the Jets. Wouldn't that be hilarious if you're Alan Lazard? You go there as part of Aaron's demands. You're his guy from Green Bay. He doesn't go there, and you got Zach Wilson throwing you the ball. But to answer your question, assuming it is Aaron Rodgers, maybe, but there are other mouths to feed there. And if Aaron Rodgers does go there, I've also heard rumors about him wanting OBJ to come too.
OBJ.
Maybe Zeke will go there, catching some, passes out of the backfield. And what was the offensive rookie of the year? Am I mistaken there?
Yeah,
Mr.
who was that wide receiver? Garrett Wilson?
Garrett
he had a
Wilson,
good year.
boys, on my team out of Ohio State. The Jets are assembling some talent. So, Sam, do we think Aaron Rodgers eventually ends up with the Jets?
I mean, he said it publicly on the Pat McAfee show.
Oh, shout out Pat.
Shout out Pat. I don't know what the holdup is. I guess it's probably both teams trying to leverage their position and get more out of the other. But
yeah, I'm sure the Packers are trying to get as much as they can from the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
Because I'm pretty sure the Jets' only asking piece has to be Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah, I don't think you want anything else. No. Does he end up in New York, Zach?
Most likely, but if he doesn't, I don't know. Is he going to retire? If he doesn't get his way, doesn't get his trade, is he retiring?
I could see him doing it.
I can see it too. I don't think he wants to be there. That's another weird situation. There's so many weird situations in the NFL where like players, I don't know if they just get so tired of being on the same team and they're just like, I've been here forever. You're not showing me, whatever it is they want to see.
Yeah.
And then they're like, even though I just signed some huge deal, I'm going to throw a fucking fit until I get my way again to go somewhere else.
Yeah, we see it in the NBA. We see it in the NFL. Sam, anything else on Aaron Rodgers?
If the situation with the Jets doesn't work out, he's not a New York Jet. I think he goes back to the drawing board, which for him is another dark room retreat, and he'll figure out what he's going to do next.
Man, we really haven't heard much about that darkness retreat. We really need to get some quotes from our guy Aaron. If he pooped and peed on himself in that dark closet, we're really curious here on the Don't Tell Mama Sports Podcast. Really curious, Aaron. We need to hear.
Next guest.
Let's move on to the tight ends to wrap this thing up here, boys. We saw Evan Ingram have a career year last year. He was tight end 5. He was tagged by the Jags. Are we looking at Evan Ingram in the draft, Sam?
In the fantasy draft? I think you got to consider him. I don't know as a starting tight end, maybe a solid backup. He had his
tight end
moments.
5 last year. You don't want him to start?
tight end was a rough position. I feel like if you didn't have one of those top 3 or 4 guys, that's a huge drop off.
Like a George Kittle
Hmm.
who you traded away?
Yeah. It's well documented. It's well documented.
The people know. Zach, you looking at Evan Ingram next year, going back, playing with Trevor Lawrence with the Jags. Can they run it back and have another good season?
Yeah, I think that that division's theirs at this point, and yeah, he could if they play just like they did last year. I mean, he's tight end 5. Like Sam said, there's a huge drop off, so I'm sure there's a huge drop off between tight end 5 and tight end 6 or tight end 7.
Yeah, always is. Always
So
is.
you got to try and get one of those top ones, or else you're going to be getting 3 points a game.
Yeah, or a goose.
Yeah,
And
or a
speaking
goose.
speaking of gooses, one of the leaders of the Goose Crew, Mike Goosicki, left the Dolphins, and he's with the Patriots now. Bill Belichick, he signed a 1-year, $9 million deal. 27 years old, Zach. Are you looking at one of the leaders of the Goose Crew to fill a bench spot on your team?
Probably not.
Nope.
Yeah, especially with all the questions of the Patriots team next year. And I know the Patriots like their white tight ends, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Gusecki's the next one.
Yeah. Sam, do you think Goosicki sucks like we do?
He's not on my fantasy team.
No. Not on our radar here. But
No.
a tight end that was on your radar last year, Sam, I traded him to you, was Hayden Hurst. He left the Bengals and he went to the Panthers. We've been talking about the Panthers a little bit today. He got a 3-year, $21.75 million deal. That's a lot of money for a
Wow.
29-year-old tight end. Sam, you liked him last year because you got him from me. Do you like him with the Panthers this year?
Yeah, man, I think the Panthers ownership has just been waiting to spend money and make moves. I feel like they've been lying in wait, and this is their year because they already made the big splash moving up to number 1 to get their rookie quarterback. But let's not sleep on all these free agency moves they've made. They brought in Adam Thielen as well, right, from the Vikings.
Adam
Hayden Hurst,
Thielen, DJ Chark, Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders. Yeah, it would seem as if they're not in so much a rebuild. Seems like they're making moves to win right now. I think that's possible. If you talk about a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, which many people think will be their number 1 overall pick, one of those 2 guys, especially if we're talking Bryce Young, I think he especially, but both of those guys are probably ready to come in and start day 1, whereas some of the other ones might be a little bit more of a project. So yeah, Panthers making big time moves.
You think we could see the Panthers in the playoffs next year, Zach? This division is kind of wide open.
Yeah, for sure. They got some people that could win them some games.
Yeah. The last tight end we want to talk about here that could maybe help Houston win some games is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Sharps, aka left the Cowboys, only 26 years old, only got a 1-year deal for $9 million. He was tight end 10 last year, played 15 games. Zach, you know our guy Max. He loves Dalton Sharps. Do
Yeah, he
you
did.
do you love him as much as him to take him as your starting tight end next year?
Probably not. Um, who's Houston got? They're not
They're,
going to be good.
they're going to be drafting a rookie. Sam, who do you think Houston's taking for their quarterback?
Get the coin flip. I think it depends on who Frank Reich likes, who the Panthers front office likes, because you got to imagine if it's CJ Stroud first, they're going to take Bryce Young and vice versa. So I imagine it's going to be one of those 2 guys. They'll be happy to take whoever the Panthers don't take.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if he can be, outlet, a safety blanket for the rookie quarterback. See if he could be a top 10 tight end again. I'm curious about Dalton Sharps next year. All right, boys. Well, this wraps up our podcast for the week. Closing thoughts here, Zach. We saw your Bears trade the #1 pick away this year and move back to #9. Get DJ Moore, get a couple other picks. Do you agree with this move from the front office? Because I know you've been skeptical of these guys in the past.
Well, I think DJ Moore was a great part of the deal. He is a definite upgrade at that position. Definite upgrade. Way better
Big
than
time.
anyone else.
Big time.
Uh, they got some good picks. They definitely got some good picks. 2 first rounds, 2 second rounds, I believe.
Yeah.
They only went from #1 to #9, so that's really not that bad.
Still getting
You
a
still
good
get a
player.
top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Just it would have been nice if they would have got maybe 1 or 2 more picks, even if they're later in the rounds or whatever. But it's still I think it was still a good pick. I think it was a lot more fair for both teams than other trades in the past for the first round pick.
Definitely. I gotta agree with you. If you watched the Don't Tell Mama Sports podcast a couple months ago, I came on here and said, go back a couple spots, add draft picks, add some assets, get some defensive players, use these picks to get some offensive linemen. Like we just traded
Mm-hmm.
I say we, I don't mean we, you guys, Bears just traded a second round pick to get Chase Claypool last year. And I mean, I love Chase Claypool coming from Notre Dame, but I don't know if he's the guy.
Yeah,
Sam,
for sure not.
anything else, Zach, about your Bears in this pick?
No, go Bears. It'd be great if they could get Derrick Henry.
Don't get your hopes up. Come on. Don't get your hopes up about the King, boys. Sam, what you got on the Bears moving back?
It was a great move. They need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball. So I think with a draft that everybody knows is going to be so quarterback heavy in the first 4 to 6 picks. I mean, if you're the Bears, you might get the second or third best defensive player in the draft.
Yeah,
They get that pick back that they used to get Claypool. Um, they have the opportunity to get some offensive line help, maybe another weapon for Justin Fields. I think it was a great move for the Bears.
I gotta agree. You mentioned those could be quarterback. The NFL draft could be quarterback heavy in the first 4 to 6 picks. Sitting at #4 this year are the lousy Indianapolis Colts. Your Colts. Sam, give us your opinion on what these guys should do with this #4 overall pick.
Yeah. A lot of people were thinking we should trade up and do what the Panthers did to get the #1 pick. Because there's a lot of talk, especially in recent years, about going and getting your guy, giving up whatever it takes to get your guy. But what's come out of the Colts front office, I know Chris Ballard talked about it. They didn't see anybody that they were willing to give. I mean, we just talked about it, all the haul that the Bears got. I don't think the Colts were willing to give all that up because let's be real here, boys. The Colts are not a quarterback away. There's a lot of positions that need some help. Um, we are definitely, we're not in a retooling or adding weapons. We're in a rebuilding. It's going to be a couple years before we're relevant again, I think. So now the talk is, do we trade a pick to move up from 4 to 3 to simply block other teams from being able to do it? I don't know. I think to give up anything to move up one spot, I don't agree with it. I don't think we should do that. I think we should stay put at 4. Hoping the Cardinals stay put at 3 and draft the best defensive player in the draft. And then you got to imagine we're going to be choosing between Mr. Mayo, Levi's, and the athletic alien, Anthony Richardson. I would be happy with either one because as a Colts fan, I just want to see us draft a rookie quarterback and go with him. I would not be disappointed in either one as long as they just draft a freaking rookie. Like, let's draft a guy and see what we got and try and build something. That being said, my preference would be Anthony Richardson, just because of the upside. He's younger, he's only 20 years old. I mean, he was jumping off the roof at Lucas Oil. Pretty cool to see, him doing his thing on what could be his future home field. Yeah, I think between the two, I think Levi's is probably would be ready sooner to start, but Chris Ballard is a big traits guy. And you talk about traits and upside. I mean, Anthony Richardson has that in spades. So yeah, those are my thoughts on what the Colts should do.
Nice. I'm going to be looking forward to that. That's coming up here in a couple weeks, boys. And going forward on this podcast, we're going to be talking a lot more NFL drafts. NFL draft, Zach, as you were saying, it's key, or it's king. It's king. The NFL is king right now. We're going to be talking a lot of draft coming up. I appreciate you boys coming on this week. This was great.
Thanks for having us.
The Don't Tell Mama Sports Podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube. We've had 4 guests on this podcast, and all 4 of them have been male nurses. Sam, what do you think the odds on that is in Vegas?
I think if you threw $5 down on it, you'd be a very rich person. Yeah, the odds of all of your guests being male nurses, it's kind of insane, but here we are.
Yeah. Zach, what do you think about that? All four guests of this podcast have been male nurses. Multiple times you guys have come on. Every time a male nurse.
Well, I think it's just a fluke.
just a fluke. Just a nugget we'll look back on in a couple years and laugh about. But appreciate any views today. Appreciate any comments. Let's get some interaction going. Love any time that you spent listening or watching. And Sam, any closing thoughts from you?
No, yeah, loved March Madness. It was a great tournament. And yeah, just really looking forward to the NFL draft. And yeah, as always, appreciate you having me on. Don't tell Mama. Don't tell her.
Don't tell your mama. She wouldn't be happy about this. She's sending you cookies and a nice little teacup, and she wouldn't be happy to hear you're on the Don't Tell Mama Sports podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, any closing thoughts from you, bro?
Yeah, get on the comments. I like to comment every now and then on the videos. I can comment back. Let's talk about the videos, man. Talk about the content.
Hell yeah, let's do it. Go Huskies. They're a bona fide blue blood now. I think we all got to agree with that. With 5 championships in the last 24 tournaments. So shout out Danny Hurley, Adama Sanogo, Andre Jackson, Jordan Hawkins. You guys are champs. And we'll look forward to talking more NFL draft next week on the Don't Tell Mama Sports Podcast.